If you're a parent or really just anyone trying to manage a household, you already know the universal everyday struggle of financial stress. It's that invisible weight you carry around, right? The silent math you're constantly doing in the back of your head while making breakfast or stuck in traffic. Today, we're diving into an explainer of some incredible source material that fundamentally changes how we view wealth, stress, and family life.
Okay, let's dive into this. We've all heard this famous childhood phrase, money doesn't bring happiness. It's in the movies we watch, the books we read, and it's passed down generation to generation. And, on the surface, we can all agree it's entirely true. Just having a stack of bills sitting on a table doesn't magically create joy or fill your home with laughter. It's a cultural myth that we kind of just accept without question.
But here is the untold second half of that truth. Money doesn't bring happiness, but it brings the peace that allows happiness to grow. Just let that sink in for a second. It completely subverts that opening myth, doesn't it? Because without that peace, happiness is like a seed planted in terrible soil. It desperately wants to grow, but the conditions are just way too harsh. So let's move to our first major concept from the source material. Part 1. The toll of stress. When the mind races. We absolutely have to talk about the emotional cost of living paycheck to paycheck. It is just an exhausting, profoundly agitating experience. Financial stress isn't just a simple math problem on a piece of paper. It builds these massive mental blocks. I mean, how can you be fully present, sitting on the floor playing with your kids, when your mind is racing through a maze of installments and overdue debts? How can you build a beautiful life when you're constantly carrying this heavy fear of whether the money will stretch until your next salary? These burdens literally build a wall between you and the people you love the most. So the crucial point here is how we redefine this entire concept. The source text offers this brilliant metaphor. It defines money not as happiness itself, but simply as the space where happiness is allowed to breathe. Imagine a cramped, suffocating room. Financial peace opens a window and lets the fresh air in. It gives your mind the necessary breathing room to actually experience the joy that's already sitting right there in front of you.
Which brings us to part 2, what peace actually buys, in redefining true wealth.
True financial peace is absolutely not about luxury, opulence, or buying social status. That is just the illusion of wealth. Instead, it's about simple, fundamentally human things. We aren't talking about this burning desire to get rich. We're talking about the desire to secure basic human dignity and a sense of daily calm. Let's look at what that human dignity actually looks like in practice. It's taking your kids to the doctor without that rising panic in your chest about what the copay will be. It's putting groceries in your cart without mentally calculating every single coin in the aisle. It's laying down at night and actually sleeping without that tight knot of anxiety in your throat. It's having the power to say no to a toxic job and the freedom to avoid making compromises that hurt your soul simply because you have a small safety net. If you've ever been there, you know exactly the deep physical relief each of these actions brings. Now, let's shift our focus to part 3, money as a shield and protecting the priceless. Happiness is incredibly fragile. Life can be harsh, and the joyful moments we experience require active, intentional protection from the storms of everyday life. Think about the things that genuinely have no price tag. Your children running up to hug you, a quiet, connected dinner with your partner, a calm, unhurried morning where you can just sit with your coffee. These are beautiful, totally free moments. But the source material highlights a really painful reality. Financial stress acts like a shovel, daily digging away at you from the inside out. If left unprotected, you lose your capacity to enjoy these priceless moments. You might physically be there, but mentally, you're miles away, trapped in worry. And this brilliantly illustrates the central reframing of this entire explainer. Money is important not as a goal, but as a shield. It's a literal protective armor for your well-being. You aren't accumulating it just to stare at it or show it off. You're building a barrier between the harsh realities of the world and the peace of your home. So, how do we actually do this? Let's look at part 4, how to build this peace, featuring practical steps for any income. The text lays out 5 specific chronological steps. First, start a small emergency fund. Second, avoid emotional debt. Third, create a simple budget. Actually, scratch that. Make it a realistic budget, not some perfect one from a textbook, but one that actually works for you. Fourth, engage in meaningful spending. And fifth, talk to your partner. Building this financial peace is a team effort, and you really don't need a massive salary to start taking control. Let's break a few of these down to show just how doable this whole thing is. to show how accessible this first step is, the source highlights setting aside just 50 to 100, whatever your local currency is, every single month. Now, that might feel tiny, maybe almost insignificant at first, but to put it in perspective, a small monthly contribution steadily builds that initial safety net. It starts building your shield, brick by small brick.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is the trap of emotional debt. Buying things purely for your image, to impress others, or just to cope with stress. We have to contrast that with the true goal, which is meaningful spending. This means you're strategically buying actual comfort and time. You're ensuring that every single purchase adds genuine value to your life, rather than just adding another number to your credit card statement. As we bring this explainer to a close, we reach part 5, a lesson about the future, the light and the window. The author presents this absolutely profound closing metaphor. If happiness is the light, then financial peace is the window. The window itself doesn't generate the light, but think about it. If the window is dirty, blocked, or broken, the light simply cannot enter the home. By achieving financial peace, you are cleaning that window. You're creating the clear opening that allows the radiant light of happiness to finally shine into your life. And that leads to this incredibly empowering realization. You don't need to be rich to be at peace. You literally do not need an extraordinary income. You just need to be careful, present, and responsible. This journey is all about taking responsibility for yourself, for your kids, and for your future. It's about taking the reins so that you feel empowered, capable, and secure, rather than being completely overwhelmed by the unpredictable currents of life. I want to leave you with this final, deeply personal thought, drawn straight from the text. What would you do differently in your life if you bought yourself at least a little more peace? Think about how your mornings would change. Think about how your interactions with your family would shift. Hold on to that vision and let it be the reason you start building your shield today.